thank you so much for being with us on Nation Tonight and this Friday evening. Now, undoubtedly, government's radical Agnipath scheme hasn't gone down well with the youth and the aspirants. And that's the big story that we're tracking right here on the broadcast. The anti-Agnipath stir continued on day 3 as well. Violence and arson has been reported from Sikandarabad. One person even died, and other 15 have been injured as well, as angry mobs set trains on fire and also clashed with the police. Police and Rapid Action Force personnel detained the protesters at Sikandarabad railway station. Several states like Bihar, West Bengal, Uttar Pradesh, Haryana and Madhya Pradesh also witnessed violent agitation over this new scheme. Trains were set ablaze in Bihar and Uttar Pradesh, where as an army aspirant who had spent 2 years waiting to get recruited ended his life in the state of Haryana. Now that's unfortunate. However, the protest seeing a violent turn is something that we have been tracking through the day, and we're asking this big question whether this violent protest was the need of the hour or registering it in a better way was something that the youth could have done. The protests across the country have heavily impacted the railways, and around 340 trains have been affected in total. Now, Army, on the other hand, has begun the process for recruiting, and the notification will be out in 2 days from now. But from what is being witnessed on ground, it seems like the central government's bid to pacify the agitating youth by increasing the upper age limit for the recruitment under the Agnipath scheme by 2 years to 23 years now hasn't really worked on ground.
We can clearly see here the protesters have gathered here, and even we have learned that after a situation completely went out of control, police has opened fire on the protesters.
These are the visuals we are showing you, the exclusive visuals of Danapur railway station where the offices have been burned down.
Protester Damodar from the Warangal district, who came here for the for the protest, actually he died undergoing treatment at the Gandhi hospital.
और आप देख सकते हैं कि किस तरह से यहाँ पर धुएं और आग का गुबार फैला हुआ है, और अब भी यहाँ पर प्रोटेस्टर्स हैं जो दोबारा आ रहे हैं और उनको भगाया जा रहा है।
वो अंदर आए और वो अंदर की तस्वीर आपको हम दिखाते हैं। ट्रेन के अंदर किस तरह से जो शीशे हैं वो देखिए, पूरे शीशे बिखरे हुए हैं। जो पैसेंजर्स होगा, आप अनुमान लगाइए कि जो पैसेंजर इस ट्रेन में चढ़े होंगे उनको कितना नुकसान हुआ होगा, क्योंकि पत्थर मारकर शीशे को इस तरह से तोड़ा गया है।
So we can say that the situation is completely out of control here in the Sikandarabad railway station.
हम लोग सिर्फ 4 साल के लिए आर्मी में क्यों जाए? हम लोग को तैयारी करने में लगभग 3 साल लगता है।
Now we see Bihar police have taken out a area domination march, a flag march almost similar to a flag march, with the loudspeaker giving out this message loud and clear that no one would be spared, anyone indulging in any kind of rioting.
The government's decision to grant this 2 years waiver for the first, or the one-time waiver for the recruitment cycle 2022, I think will provide a good opportunity for the young, energetic and motivated youth who have been waiting to get recruited and for some reason in the last 2 years could not partake in the recruitment process. So I think this is a good opportunity for them. As far as the schedule of the recruitment is concerned, I think in a very short time we shall be announcing it. And I would like to appeal to the youth to come forward and be part of the recruitment process as and when we announce it. Like I mentioned, this recruitment process will commence very shortly. In the next 2 days, this notification will be posted on joinindianarmy.nic.in website. And thereafter, in the next stage, our various recruitment offices will promulgate the dates for registration and conduct of rallies, including their locations or places pan-India. And in all this, we will make sure that the prospective candidates do get adequate time for registration as well as preparation.
And the first Agniveer?
Yes, the first Agniveer we reckon will join our regimental centers by December and will be available for deployment in our operational and non-operational units by the middle of next year.
The first Agniveer to join by December, that is the word that is coming in from the defense side. But what is the scene on ground is something that we just showed you. The government is defending the scheme and it is also calling it transformative, hailing it. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh has also said that the recruitments, in fact, were not done for the last 2 years. So the government has decided to increase that age limit for the Agniveers. And this is what we've told you, that now the upper age limit is not 21 for this year only. It has now been raised to 23 years. But what has been witnessed on the ground? The railways being torched, the trains being torched, because of which several of the trains have been impacted, obviously inconveniencing people who commute. This is the nation that we're living in, and these are the youth. They are talking about defending this very nation. Remember, we also have a word by the Railway Minister, Ashwini Vaishnaw, who has urged the protesters not to indulge in arson or violence or destroy public properties. However, what is the opposition doing? What opposition has done is stepped up its attack on the government over this Agnipath scheme amid the protests and demanded that it be scrapped.
I request everybody not to take law in their own hands, and please do not destroy the railway property. Railway property is your property. It is national property. It is for your service. It is for everybody's service. Please do not damage the railway property.
पिछले 2 साल से सेना में भर्ती की प्रक्रिया न होने के कारण बहुत से नौजवानों को सेना में भर्ती होने का अवसर नहीं मिला। यह सच्चाई है। इसलिए युवाओं के भविष्य को ध्यान में रखते हुए और उनके प्रति संवेदनशीलता दिखाते हुए प्रधानमंत्री जी के अनुमोदन पर सरकार ने फैसला किया है कि अग्निवीरों की भर्ती की आयु सीमा को इस बार बढ़ाकर 21 से 23 वर्ष कर दिया जाए। यह वन टाइम रिलैक्सेशन दिया गया है। इससे बहुत सारे नौजवानों को अग्निवीर बनने की पात्रता स्वतः मिल जाएगी। और मैं यह भी कहना चाहता हूं कि भर्ती प्रक्रिया कुछ ही दिनों में प्रारंभ होने जा रही है। मैं सभी नौजवानों से अपील करता हूं कि सेना में भर्ती होने की वह तैयारी करें।
देश में आर्मी, नेवी, एयरफोर्स के जो लोग जाते हैं, हमारे सोल्जर्स, वो एक ऑनरेबल प्रोफेशन है। वो किसी की जान लेते हैं या किसी की जान, अपनी जान दे देते हैं, और उनको आप इस तरह से ट्रीट कर रहे हैं कि 4 साल क्या मतलब? क्यों 4 साल भाई? किस लिए कर रहे हैं आप ये गलत फैसला है। ना उसमें ग्रेचुइटी, ना उसमें डियरनेस अलाउंस। आप प्रधानमंत्री बड़ा वादा किए थे 2014 में कि 1 रैंक 1 पेंशन, यहाँ तो यहाँ रैंक है ना यहाँ पे पेंशन है, और 1 लाख से ज्यादा वैकेंसीज हैं हमारे सिपाहियों की। चीन बैठा हमारी जमीन पर, पाकिस्तान से हमको खतरा है। आप इस तरह का गलत हरकत किए हैं, गलत फैसला है। देश के प्रधानमंत्री को फौरन, क्योंकि उनकी गलत फैसले की वजह से आज नौजवान भारत में रोड पर निकल आया है।
आप ऐसा कैसे कह सकते हो कि आप 17 साल में ट्रेनिंग के लिए जाइए और 21 साल में रिटायर होके आ जाइए, भूतपूर्व सैनिक बन जाइए 21 साल में? तो ये तो ठीक नहीं है। क्या आप उनको किराए पे रखोगे कि आ जाओ जी, 4 साल के बाद आपको भूतपूर्व सैनिक साबका बना देंगे? ये नेता तो कभी रिटायर नहीं होते हैं, सिर्फ जनता ही रिटायर होती है, और वो भी सैनिक। इसका विरोध करते हैं हम। मैं तो यही अपील करूंगा, ये जो कानून उन्होंने अग्निपथ वाला बनाया है, इसको वापस लें।
All right, let's shift focus now to story number 2 on the broadcast. And the Central Bureau of Investigation has filed a case against Rajasthan Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot's brother now. And 14 others also, along with Agrasen Gehlot, in the fertilizer scam. Now, earlier today, the CBI conducted raids at the residence of Agrasen Gehlot, and this happened in Jodhpur, and 16 other locations also across Gujarat, Rajasthan and West Bengal. The case relates to alleged corruption in the import of potassium chloride. All right, we're being told the CBI raids are currently being conducted at Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot's brother's house in Jodhpur, and this has been done after Enforcement Directorate had conducted its raids. All right, also getting a reaction there from Rahul Gandhi, who's just tweeted, and he has gone ahead and slammed the centre over raids on Ashok Gehlot's brother. And he said that the harassment of opposition leaders who stand up and speak truth to power has become the hallmark of the BJP government. That's the tweet that he's just put out. So what is this raid all about? The CBI has filed a case against Rajasthan Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot's brother, Mr. Agrasen Gehlot, and this is regarding the fertilizer scam. 14 others have been named in this particular case, and there were raids that were conducted by the CBI at the residence of Agrasen Gehlot and also 16 other locations, and these locations were both in Gujarat, Rajasthan, also in West Bengal. So these raids are being continuing and these are going on. Rahul Gandhi, of course, claiming harassment and the misuse of probe agencies because now the CBI has knocked on the doors of Ashok Gehlot. This time his brother is in question here. My colleague Bhavtosh is joining me on the broadcast. Bhavtosh, just take us through the background of this particular case. And now that Ashok Gehlot's brother, Agrasen Gehlot, is in question here along with 14 others, what is it that the CBI is looking at doing? Because here we are told that the raids, I believe, are still continuing in various places, especially at Mr. Gehlot's residence in Jodhpur.
Griha, this is a old case. In fact, in 2011, the Directorate of Revenue Intelligence had filed a prosecution complaint against Agrasen Gehlot, Ashok Gehlot's brother, and it was alleged that muriate of potash, an important ingredient which is used in manufacture of fertilizers, was illegally given to commercial entities. Remember, Agrasen Gehlot was a dealer of Indian Potash Limited, and Indian Potash Limited imports muriate of potash, which is a restricted item. Now, instead of giving muriate of potash to farmers, he had given it to commercial entities who then illegally exported it to Malaysia and also to Singapore. Then this matter was revived in 2020 by the Directorate of by the Enforcement Directorate, which filed a case of money laundering. At that point of time, Ashok Gehlot had said that the case that was filed by the Enforcement Directorate was a political witch hunt. At various point of time, Agrasen Gehlot was called by the Enforcement Directorate. He was questioned. Now, on Friday, the Central Bureau of Investigation carried out raids and searches at 15 locations and also in 3 states. CBI has issued a statement that Agrasen Gehlot is not the only person who has been raided and searched, but at least 20 other individuals and entities have also been searched and raids have been carried out, but unknown officials of government have also been named in these searches. Importantly, the Congress have come out in support of Ashok Gehlot. He is one of the chief ministers who was openly supporting Rahul Gandhi when he was called in for questioning by the Enforcement Directorate. So there is a political angle to this. But as far as the CBI is concerned, they have said they have taken cognizance of the old prosecution complaint that was filed by the DRI, as well as the new investigation that they have carried out on their own.
All right, Bhavtosh, thank you so much for taking us through the details of this particular case and also about what is next for Agrasen Gehlot in this particular case. Now that matters have been taken on, and of course Rahul Gandhi, after that that questioning by the Enforcement Directorate, he has his day off today. He is exempt from appearing before the Enforcement Directorate, but he did take time out to tweet about how the centre is using these probe agencies to actually go ahead and cull any kind find no voices when it comes from the opposition side. Getting you some breaking news on the broadcast now. Shiv Sena MLAs have been moved to a plush hotel in Mumbai in western suburbs. BJP will be moving its MLAs tomorrow in South Mumbai at a hotel there. This is the latest that we are getting to know through our sources, and Congress and NCP, in fact, will also be doing that. These are visuals of the Shiv Sena MLA on board a bus. They have been taken to a Mumbai hotel in the western suburbs of Mumbai, and all this is being done right ahead of the MLC polls in Maharashtra that are slated to take place on the 20th of June. And the Sena MLAs there taking that bus ride, moving to a plush hotel in the western suburbs of Mumbai. Arunil, who's got us that input, is joining us on the broadcast. Arunil, all that fear of poaching right ahead of the Maharashtra MLC polls, that's why we see this heavy movement of trying to get and maintain their flock together. So it's Shiv Sena right now, BJP to do that tomorrow, Congress, NCP to also follow suit.
Well, this is the same resort or hotel politics that we had seen ahead of the Rajya Sabha elections as well that were conducted recently in Maharashtra's Vidhan Sabha. Now, ahead of the MLC polls, which are scheduled on 20th of this month, you can see Shiv Sena MLA is being moved to a plush hotel in Mumbai's western suburbs. The Congress and the NCP are also expected to follow on the footsteps of the Shiv Sena, them being the alliance partner of the Shiv Sena in the Mahavikas Aghadi government. BJP tomorrow will be keeping their MLAs in a hotel in South Mumbai. Now, the big challenge is for the MLC seat between the Mahavikas Aghadi and the BJP particularly. We know how the BJP had basically got an embarrassment for the Shiv Sena to a very large extent when it came to Rajya Sabha polls, and that time a celebration was being conducted by the BJP High Command in Maharashtra, including Devendra Fadnavis. Jyotiradittya Scindia was also here. Devendra Fadnavis that time had basically said that he is extremely confident that in MLC polls also the BJP will be able to do better than the Mahavikas Aghadi government. As you pointed out, the motive is to keep their bloc together, keep their MLAs together, to ensure that they don't speak to the opposition camp. Because unlike the Rajya Sabha polls, this time this will be secret voting that will be conducted. So this time keeping your MLAs in hotels makes more sense, as well as strategic planning also happens from the party high command during this time.
Okay.
Independent MLAs and smaller parties are again going to play a crucial role in the MLC poll. That's it.
All right, Arunil, thank you so much for joining us with all those details, and we are playing out those visuals on your screen. Shiv Sena MLAs on board a bus. They are being taken to a plush hotel in the western suburbs of Mumbai. And of course, we'd see more of this resort politics being played out right ahead of the MLC polls that are slated to take place on the 20th of June. All right, staying with Mumbai, the Bombay High Court has dismissed the petitions of Maharashtra Minister Nawab Malik and also former State Home Minister Anil Deshmukh for permission to cast their votes for the upcoming MLC polls. So this is a big setback for both of them, and they will not be allowed to cast their votes now. Both the leaders are currently in jail in separate money laundering cases. Now remember, the polls for the Maharashtra Legislative Council are set to take place on June 20th, like we just told you. Meanwhile, the Aghadi government, on the other hand, in Maharashtra is taking all steps to ensure that it secures a victory.
अभी कोर्ट ने याचिका के ऊपर जो है निर्णय लिया है कि याचिका को रिजेक्ट किया है, और जैसे ही डिटेल ऑर्डर हाथ में आएगा तो डेफिनेटली हम उसके ऊपर विचार करेंगे. इट इज अ क्वेश्चन ऑफ लॉ. क्या आप लोग आगे मूव करेंगे? ऑर्डर देखने के बाद बताएंगे.
What is the strategy now after the Rajya Sabha polls?
See, we have made some mistakes in Rajya Sabha. It is quite obvious, and that is the reason we have lost. So we have learned by our mistakes, and I can assure you one thing: 6 candidates of Mahavikas Aghadi, they are going to win. this time.
And sir, again a setback today because the Bombay High Court denied permission to vote in the MLC election for Malik and Deshmukh as well.
See, it's not a question of setback or something like that. I'm wonder and I'm shocked. Last time also I have given the same reaction. How someone can deny their constitutional right to vote?
These are the two crucial votes. I mean, MVA together considered as well as NCP, two important votes. Will it affect the numbers, sir, the number game?
I don't think so because we have an adequate number. And as I said, Rajya Sabha was a different ball altogether. And this MLCs from, upper house in Legislative Assembly is a different ball altogether, and we have adequate number.
In the ensuing Maharashtra Legislative Council elections, Honorable Minister Nawab Malik ji and NCP leader Anil Deshmukh ji had requested the Honorable Court to grant a special permission for them to come and cast their votes. However, that permission was denied. It is now learnt that they might approach Honorable Supreme Court with a similar request to allow them to come and cast their votes for the ensuing Maharashtra Legislative Council elections.
जिस प्रकार का ये कोर्ट का जजमेंट आया या ऑर्डर आई है, सीधी सीधी बात है, महाराष्ट्र विकास आघाड़ी के पराभव की शुरुआत और चुनाव के पहले उनको पनवती लग चुकी है। भारतीय जनता पार्टी के जीत का ये शुभ संकेत है और उस दिशा में भारतीय जनता पार्टी जीत की तरफ कदम कदम आगे बढ़ाएगी।
Maharashtra Legislative Council elections are been scheduled for 20th June, and after Rajya Sabha election, MVA government is now making strategy to win this all 6 winners for the MLC elections. We are joined exclusively by Balasaheb Thorat, Cabinet Minister for MVA government. Sir, एक महत्वपूर्ण मीटिंग हुई अभी डिप्टी चीफ मिनिस्टर के साथ, क्या रणनीति बनाई जा रही है सर?
महाविकास आघाड़ी के हमारे वोट्स तो है ही खुद की ही, उसके साथ हमारे मित्र पक्ष है, अपक्ष इंडिपेंडेंट एमएलए लोग है, वो सबका हमें वोटिंग करना है। यहाँ प्रेफरेंशियल वोटिंग जब होती है तो वो सब मैथमेटिक होता है, तो इसके बारे में बैठना पड़ता है, वो कैलकुलेशन करना पड़ता है, किसने किसको वोट देना है देखना पड़ता है। ये सब करने के लिए हम मीटिंग की।
सर, राज्यसभा के इलेक्शन से क्या सीख मिली है एमवीए गवर्नमेंट को और आगे कितनी सतर्क रहकर इसमें और
All right, we're getting some breaking news now. As per sources, we've been told that Lawrence Bishnoi has admitted before the special investigative team that he in fact was behind the murder of Sidhu Moosewala. This is a big admission by Lawrence Bishnoi. Remember, he was brought to Punjab and Punjab's Mansa on a transit remand. That transit remand was granted by a Delhi court, and after which teams of Punjab police had come to the national capital and taken Lawrence Bishnoi, also assuring the court of his security. And now we have been told that he might just have admitted before SIT that he was the one who was behind the killing of Sidhu Moosewala. My colleague Anuj, who has brought us that story, is joining me on the broadcast. Anuj, this is a big admission by Lawrence Bishnoi if it is true.
SIT की पूछताछ में लॉरेंस बिश्नोई ने ये बात कबूल की है कि उसने ही सिद्धू मूसेवाला की हत्या करवाई थी और इसमें उसके गैंग के लोग जो थे वो शामिल थे। जाहिर तौर पर अगर लॉरेंस बिश्नोई की बात की जाए, उसने जब वो स्पेशल सेल की कस्टडी में था तब भी उसने ये बात जरूर कबूल किया था कि उसके गैंग के लोगों ने ही
इस वारदात को अंजाम दिलाया था। उसका साफ तौर पे ये कहना था कि जिस तरीके से विक्की मधुखेड़ा की हत्या हुई थी, उसी का बदला लेने के लिए उसने इस वारदात को अंजाम दिया। हालांकि शूटर कहां से लाए गए थे और उनको हथियार किस तरीके से मुहैया कराया गया था, इस बारे में लॉरेंस बिश्नोई ने ज्यादा जानकारी पुलिस को, एसआईटी को नहीं दिया है। जाहिर तौर पर अभी एसआईटी जो है लगातार उससे पूछताछ कर रही है, लेकिन अपने आप में एक बड़ी बात है जिस तरीके से लॉरेंस बिश्नोई ने ये बात कबूल की है कि उसके गैंग के लोगों ने ही इस वारदात को अंजाम दिलवाया। न सिर्फ उसके गैंग के लोगों के, बल्कि गोल्डी बरार का नाम भी उसने लिया कि गोल्डी बरार ही कहीं न कहीं इस पूरी घटना में शामिल रहा, उसने ही, उसके इशारे पर ही इस वारदात को अंजाम दिया गया। गोल्डी बरार जो कि विदेश में बैठा हुआ है, इस गैंग को पूरी तरीके से ऑपरेट कर रहा है, उसी के इशारे पर कहीं न कहीं जो शूटर हैं उनको, उनका अरेंजमेंट किया गया था और उसके बाद उन्हें हथियार बाकायदा मुहैया कराया गया था, जिसके बाद सिद्धू मूसेवाले की हत्या कराई गई थी। तो एक बड़ा स्टेटमेंट है, खासतौर पर एसआईटी की बात की जाए, जिस तरीके से पंजाब पुलिस के एसआईटी जो है वो लॉरेंस बिश्नोई को अपने साथ लेके गई थी और पूछताछ के दौरान अब उसने ये बात कबूल कर ली है। जी
अनुज, किस तरह से इम्पैक्ट पड़ेगा इस केस को लेके, क्योंकि पहले ये बात कही जा रही थी कि लॉरेंस बिश्नोई बिल्कुल भी कोऑपरेट नहीं कर रहे हैं इस पर्टिकुलर प्रोब को लेके, और बहुत ज्यादा ये बात भी आ रही थी कि ट्रांजिट रिमांड किसी तरह से ना हो, इसकी भी कोशिशें की जा रही थी उनके लॉयर्स के द्वारा। तो अब ये एडमिशन जो है एसआईटी के सामने, ये बहुत ही बड़ा खुलासा है।
जी बिल्कुल, जहां तक ट्रांजिट रिमांड की बात की जाए तो इनके लॉयर का साफ तौर पे ये कहना था कि कहीं न कहीं लॉरेंस बिश्नोई को खतरा है, जान का खतरा है। हालांकि वो एनकाउंटर का खतरा भी कोर्ट के सामने जाहिर कर रहे थे, लेकिन आखिरकार चूंकि इन्वेस्टिगेशन जो है वो घूम फिर कर कहा जा सकता है कि लॉरेंस बिश्नोई और उसके गैंग की तरफ ही आ रही थी, और इसी वजह से जो पंजाब पुलिस है वो ट्रांजिट रिमांड पर लॉरेंस बिश्नोई को लेकर गई। पूछताछ में जिस तरीके से उसने खुलासा किया, कहीं न कहीं इस पूरे मामले की जो कड़ियां हैं वो जरूर जुड़ेंगी, क्योंकि लॉरेंस बिश्नोई वो शख्स है जिसने बाकायदा गोल्डी बरार जो कि विदेश में बैठा हुआ है उससे जेल में रहते हुए ही फोन पर बात किया था, और इस पूरी साजिश की जहां तक बात किया जाए तो इसकी पृष्ठभूमि जो है उसके तरफ से तैयार की गई थी। तो निश्चित तौर पर केस में कहा जा सकता है कि एक बड़ी मदद जो है वो पुलिस को मिलेगी, जिस तरीके से लॉरेंस बिश्नोई ने ये एडमिट किया है कि उसके गैंग के लोगों ने ही इस पूरी घटना को अंजाम दिया। जी
Absolutely. Anuj, thank you so much for that important development, a story that is being broken by my colleague Anuj. Now, he has got to know from his sources in the SIT that Lawrence Bishnoi, in fact, has admitted before the SIT that it was he who was involved in the killing of Sidhu Moosewala. All right, shifting focus now. Madras High Court has said that it cannot order the release of former Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi's assassination case convict S. Nalini on similar lines like how the Supreme Court had ordered in the case of A.G. Perarivalan by exercising its special power under Article 142 of the Constitution. The Madras High Court also dismissed Nalini's plea seeking to direct the Tamil Nadu government to be released on the basis of a cabinet recommendation without, in fact, waiting for the governor's approval. My colleague Dharani now joins me on the broadcast. Dharani, this is a setback for Nalini. Of course, she cannot be looking at a similar relaxation that was granted to Perarivalan in this particular case, and this is what has come out of the courts now.
Well, she'll have to go to the Supreme Court now, since the Madras High Court has dismissed her plea, seeking to direct the Tamil Nadu government to release her without waiting for the governor's approval. So remember, in September 2018, Tamil Nadu government passed a cabinet recommendation to release the 7 convicts in relation to the Rajiv Gandhi assassination case. So that cabinet recommendation was, pending with then Governor Panwarlal Purohit for over 2.5 years, and then he then forwarded it to President for presidential approval. So right now, the cabinet recommendation is sitting with the president. So meanwhile, Nalini had filed a petition in front of the Madras High Court, seeking the Honorable Court to direct her, to direct the Tamil Nadu government, to order her release without waiting for the governor's approval. So this case, it's been it has been in the hearing for the past few months, and today finally the Madras High Court has pronounced its verdict. In fact, it has dismissed the plea, telling that it does not have the authority or does not have the power to release Nalini. In fact, the court has told that I cannot release Nalini like how the Supreme Court did in the case of AG Peranivalan by using special provisions under Article 142 of the Constitution. So this is definitely a setback for Nalini, and the next step for her to be to approach the Honorable Supreme Court to argue her side.
Okay. All right, Dharini, thank you so much for joining us with all those details. And with that, I'm also slipping into a very, very short break right here on Nation Tonight. More news and updates continue on the other side. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching Nation Tonight with me, Griha, and let's now take about the concerning rise in COVID numbers as India recorded 12,847 fresh COVID-19 cases and 14 deaths in the last 24 hours. The daily positivity rate stands at 2.47% and this is the weekly positivity rate, which is also now at 2.38%. Maharashtra, which seemingly is the worst hit state in the country, recorded 4,165 new COVID cases, which is the highest in the last 4 months from the state, and with over 2,200 of those cases being reported from Mumbai alone. Delhi, on the other hand, recorded over 1,300 cases and 2 deaths in the last 24 hours. In fact, the active case tally in Delhi has now jumped to nearly 4,000. All right, shifting focus now. The power struggle between AIADMK leaders EDP K. Palaniswamy and O. Pannirselvam has come to fore once again, with meetings being held in both the camps. Like we mentioned to you earlier, now we had seen both the camps in a huddle. This, in fact, has left the party cadres in a fix. OPS is holding meeting with senior members of the party for the 4th straight day. In fact, the senior AIADMK leader Kamraj also met EPS, and it is said that both OPS and EPS are trying to attract district secretaries to their sites. The OPS camp has called all the district secretaries and asked them to come to Chennai for a meeting. However, some district secretaries have refused the invite, saying that they will come only if both EPS and OPS called together. Meanwhile, Tamil Nadu BJP chief Annamalai has refused to talk over the matter, calling it an internal matter of the AIADMK. My colleague Shri Prapanch joins us for more on this to actually better understand this story. Shri Prapanch, where does it leave the cadre? Because AIADMK has always been a cadre-driven party. Now that we see two factions, which is again rearing its ugly head when it comes to the two leaves of the AIADMK at war, I wonder what is it that will go on in the party when it comes to the cadre? Where are they going to look at?
No, it is a confused state for the cadres and the supporters of both the leaders, Edappadi Palaniswamy and Mr. O. Pannirselvam. We need to look at that there is a growing discontent among the cadres, and they've been asking for a single leadership. One group is asking for a single leadership, and another group, very few members, are asking for the dual leadership to continue. Now we can see that O. Pannirselvam has come out and said that he wants the dual leadership to continue. However, Mr. Edappadi Palaniswamy has remained silent. In fact, in last 24 hours, we did not see any reaction from Mr. Edappadi or his supporters. Only Mr. O. Pannirselvam had met the press yesterday. He had said that the dual leadership is required, and how he had sacrificed various opportunities that had come his way, and how to maintain the party, to keep the ADMK together. He had in fact proposed Mr. Edappadi Palaniswamy for the CM candidate and for the leader of opposition, and similarly he was in fact O. Pannirselvam was persuaded to take up the deputy chief minister's post. So there are several things that Mr. O. Pannirselvam had stated during the press conference. Now we need to see that tomorrow there's a meeting of district secretaries along with the O. Pannirselvam and Edappadi Palaniswamy, which was scheduled earlier. This meeting is basically to finalize the agenda that is to be taken up during the General Council meeting. And based on this meeting, only further agenda and resolutions will be formulated. Now we need to see, because there is a impasse between the two leaders, we need to understand whether these two leaders will come tomorrow. Will the meeting take place tomorrow, or will this meeting be deferred to a different date? And if this meeting is deferred and until the 23rd, what kind of a decision it comes, or what kind of consensus forms between these two leaders is very much observed, and we need to wait and watch. However, at this point in time, Mr. OPS has called for the dual leadership, and meanwhile, the other side, Mr. Edappadi Palaniswamy side, is silent. So there is a growing confusion among the party leaders, the party cadres and supporters. So we are just waiting for Mr. Edappadi Palaniswamy to react on this so that further course of action could be taken.
Okay. All right, Sri Prapanch, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast for all the details as per the two leads of AIADMK who are sparring. Of course, there are two factions now in AIADMK, and this is very, very clear. And even though the party leadership really will maintain that this is a matter that is an internal matter of the AIADMK, this is something that is bound to actually confuse the cadre as to which way should they swing. All right, moving into some breaking news that we're getting on the broadcast. Let's take a look at that. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has arrived in Ahmedabad. He, remember, is in Gujarat for 2 days, and he is there to inaugurate infra projects. In fact, Prime Minister Modi arrived in Ahmedabad just a short while ago, and his visit is going to be from today till the 18th, 2-day visit in the state. He, along with Governor Acharya Devrat, Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel and others were there to receive him at the airport. These are images of his arrival in Ahmedabad, in Gujarat, where he is going to be inaugurating various projects. The Reserve Bank of India Governor Shaktikanta raised the issue of methods of loan recovery that are being used by some lenders. In fact, he has called out the harsh methods used by recovery agents. The governor also said that the central bank will soon be issuing guidelines to make digital lending ecosystem a safe and sound one. He also mentioned as to how certain regulated as well as unregulated entities use unacceptable recovery methods without having adequate checks and controls over their recovery agents. This after several complaints were received where the agents called the customers at odd hours and also used foul languages. In fact, Governor Shaktikanta also stressed that this kind of practice is absolutely unacceptable. A big development there that's come in from the RBI.
Another area which is engaging, and it is engaging our serious attention, is the harsh recovery methods used by certain lenders without having adequate checks and controls over their recovery agents. We have received complaints of customers being contacted by recovery agents at odd hours, even past midnight. There are also complaints of recovery agents using foul language. Now, such kind of actions by recovery agents are unacceptable and pose reputational risk for the financial entities themselves. And this is something which we find to a large extent in unregulated entities and also to some extent in the regulated entities of the RBI.
Meanwhile, the RBI governor has also said that tolerance of high inflation during pandemic era was a necessity and things had to be dealt in a calibrated manner. He further added that RBI has been in line with requirements of the time.
Gave to our economy, our financial markets had to be dealt with in a calibrated manner. The shock of the war had to be also dealt with in a calibrated manner so that the shock is well absorbed by the players, by the businesses, by the financial sector and by the lenders. So we had a calibrated path, so therefore we did the off-cycle meeting in May. And now the numbers, growth numbers for last year, they are about 1.5% higher than 2019-20 level. So I feel that we are very much in line with the requirements of the time. The RBI has acted proactively.
All right, let's shift focus to another major development. The Financial Action Task Force has once again retained Pakistan on the grey list. Now, according to the FATF president, Pakistan hasn't been removed from the grey list today, but might just be removed after FATF team's visit to ensure that measurements are in place. However, Pakistan has been found in compliance of all the 34 action items as required by the FATF. Pakistan, in fact, has been on FATF's grey list for deficiencies in its counter-terror financing and anti-money laundering regime since June 2018. But this could be some sort of a respite, as that on-site visit is expected very, very soon. My colleague Srinjoy now joins me on the broadcast. Srinjoy, speculations were rife that Pakistan might the grey list today. That hasn't happened. An on-site visit is pending. Just take us through the intricacies of this particular story that we've been tracking on the broadcast.
Well, the FATF says that Pakistan has made some progress, but it wants to see on the ground what kind of progress it has made. We know that not much progress has made, but at least FATF believes that some progress has been made. So only after the FATF looks at the entire situation on the ground, whenever it does go to Pakistan, keeping COVID in mind, and then comes up with a positive answer, will a decision to move Pakistan off the grey list be taken. At this point, Pakistan will continue to be on the grey list. There is no dispute on that. Yes, Pakistan, according to the FATF, has made some progress vis-a-vis terror financing. But at this point, it remains on the grey list till there is this visit, an on-site inspection. And if they are happy with the progress, only then will a decision to take Pakistan off the grey list be taken. As of now, Pakistan firmly remains where it was on the in the grey list.
All right. Thank you so much, Srinjoy, for joining us with all those details. We'd have to wait and watch whether or not Pakistan manages to get off that grey list after that on-site visit by FATF personnel is expected. Shifting focus now back to the country, where incessant rainfall in the northeast region has led to floods in Assam, Meghalaya and also Arunachal Pradesh. And several roads, bridges and also houses have been destroyed due to the heavy downpour for the last 4 days in all these states. The state government has said that at least 4 people have died as heavy rains have triggered flash floods in Assam. Over 11 lakh people have been impacted, out of which 68,000 have taken shelter in 150 relief camps. If we take a look at what is the situation looking like in Meghalaya, incessant rain has claimed 3 lives in Garo Hill. In fact, heavy rain in the past few days have devastated the Garo Hill region, particularly the South Garo Hills. Bridges have been washed away and the all-important National Highway 62 has been disrupted due to landslides. Cherrapunji in Meghalaya received a bountiful 972 millimeters of precipitation in 24 hours, which is the highest in June since 1995 and the 3rd highest in 122 years.